All right, so in this video, what I want to do is I want to talk about your menu. Okay, so we're back in the Platinum Keto page. We're going to go to Files again, and this time we're going to go into the guide, and we're going to scroll down to the macro portion. Okay, so once you have your macros, you split your macros into meals. I'm going to explain an intermittent fasting video at another point, so make sure you check that out. How to read nutrition labels. So the main difference between most of our programs and keto is in the keto program, you have to count everything on the label, okay? You don't just count protein, fat, or carb. You have to count everything once you get your macros. So this is where it becomes very, very important, okay? I'm going to teach you a couple things. First, what is an impact carb? Okay, so remember, we have to stay below 20 grams of impact carbs per day and 39 or 34 total carbs per day. Okay, so here's the deal. If you look at strawberries, right, strawberries have 20 grams of carbs and 3 grams of fiber. So we would go 20 minus 3 equals 17 impact carbs in 1 cup of strawberries. So could you get away with having a cup of strawberries? Technically, yeah, you could, but here's the deal. That would leave you 3 grams of carbs to get a bunch of veggies in, green veggies that are going to really help you stay in ketosis and keep your body regular and get that fiber intake up, okay? So we included in the list, if you look at the list, there's a lot of different things on here. There's berries, there's a lot of stuff, but in all reality, you probably won't be eating many fruits or berries. The only reason we included this is because avocado's on there, and realistically, here's the deal, is these are really low carb option veggies or fruits and berries. Okay, these are really your lowest carb. So a lot of people will always ask me, what's a good low carb berry? These are the best ones. Okay, so make sure that you take a look at that. You probably won't be eating them a lot though. Okay. Now, what I did was I pulled up 3 labels. So, Smucker's natural peanut butter. Okay, if this is the front, this is the back. So if we're just getting the natural creamy peanut butter from Smucker's, if you look at the back, there's 16 grams of fat in 2 tablespoons, right? Here's the serving size, 2 tablespoons. You're probably going to need a food scale to measure everything out. I would recommend getting one of those, okay? So we would take the 16 grams of fat, we would take the 7 grams of protein, we would count that against our macros, but we would also have to count 6 grams of carbs minus 2 grams of fiber, so 4 impact carbs per 2 tablespoons. So can you have natural creamy peanut butter? Yes, but as you can see, you're not going to be able to have peanut butter for every meal because you're going to run over your carb amount, and we can't do that. Okay, so please be aware that the biggest thing that you're going to need to do is count everything on the back of the label, protein, carb, and fat. Okay, you have to take that away from your macros. So what I would recommend doing when you're making your sample menu, which we have one at the very, very bottom of our program, right? There's a sample menu here, is I would recommend not using a ton of nut butter and being very, very careful when you make it. What I would do if I were you, because we're eating in an 8-hour window, and I'll explain that in the intermittent fasting video, is I would recommend doing 3 meals where you count everything and then make your last meal a protein shake and do what we call a dumpster shake. So whatever remaining macros you have at the end of the day, I would recommend dumping them into a shake and eating them that way. That would be the best way to do it, in my opinion. Okay, so menu plan for 3 meals, and then have your 4th one be your extra protein, extra fat. If you have some extra carbs left, maybe throw some veggies or a little bit of fruit or whatever you have left over for your carbs. Throw that into your dumpster shake, but we have to stay within our carb count. So this is peanut butter. I also pulled up spinach. So here you see spinach, right? For every cup of spinach, 1 carbohydrate, less than a gram of fiber. So we're still going to need to count this 1 gram, but that's fine. We could eat 20 cups of spinach and we're never going to eat all that spinach, right? That's an insane amount. So spinach is a great option. So there is no free veggie list this time, okay? There is no such thing as nothing counts. So when you're going through the veggies, you have to count the carbs minus the fiber and it always has to count for a minimum of 1, okay? Even if it says there's 1 gram of fiber to 1 gram of carb, it doesn't mean that it's carb free. You still have to count that gram, even though it would technically be 0. We don't want to go above our intake. Be very, very careful with the carb intake. If you go over the carb intake, this is what will kick you out of ketosis, because your body will recognize the carbohydrates as a sufficient fat source. So please be aware of that. Last one I pulled up is a salmon fillet. Again, as you can see, for 178 gram salmon fillet, and again, you would measure this cooked, okay? Always measure your meat cooked. It would have 39 grams of protein, 22 grams of fat, no carbs. So we're good on the carbs here, but we're going to have to count a lot of fat and a lot of protein out of our macros. This is why salmon is a staple for a lot of people who do keto, because it's got great fats, it's got a lot of fats, and it's got a ton of protein. So a lot of people will use salmon when they do keto, because it's such a great fish as far as a ketosis fish, and being really optimized for a keto diet. So that would be a good one and a good example there. This is what you need to figure out when you're doing your menu creation on how to count macros, is we are counting everything on the labels. This is going to be the part that really you're going to have to learn. If you're not used to counting labels, let us know. If you need help when you're doing your menu, post the menu that you have so far and let us help you make sure that you're on the right track. Even if you want to bring it in and talk with the training staff before you start, talk with Chris, talk with Sandy, or post it in the Facebook group to ask for recommendations, or if you're on the right track, I would totally recommend doing that, just to make sure that everything looks good and you get that stamp of approval, because this is the part that's going to kick you out of ketosis and ruin your results. You cannot have too many carbs on a keto diet, or you're not going to be in ketosis. This is the key. I hope this video helped you when you're picking out foods and creating your menu.